Every day, we rise, challenging ourselves to work for what we believe in. At U.S. Border Patrol, protecting our borders is more than a job. It's a calling. Agents answer the call, working together to keep our country and communities safe. If you're ready for a new mission, join U.S. Border Patrol and go beyond. Learn more at cbp.gov/careers.
What's the easiest choice you can make? Window instead of middle seat? Picking a vendor who sends a great gift basket? Outsourcing business tasks you hate? What about selling with Shopify? Whether you're selling a little or a lot, Shopify helps you do your thing, however you cha-ching. Shopify is the global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business. From the launch your online shop stage to the first real-life store stage, all the way to the did we just hit a million orders stage? Shopify's there to help you grow. Whether you're selling scented soap or offering outdoor outfits, Shopify helps you sell. Wherever and whatever you're selling, Shopify's got you covered. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/try. Go to shopify.com/try now to grow your business, no matter what stage you're in. Shopify.com/try.
Gas mark 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm gonna cook a meal that's gonna make you mine. I'm turning up the oven, now we're ready to roast. When you touch me, honey, you'll love it the most. Come on and put me in a loving stew.
Welcome to another BritFlix.com podcast. My name's Stuart Wright, and today's guest is TV writer Eric Rogers. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, sir. Good to be here.
Now, your credits include, and I won't list them all, but your credits include NYPD BLUE. You created Skylanders Academy. Futurama is another show you've written on. And one of the things that struck me was you've written on some shows, and obviously you created one. So, but you were the script coordinator for 97 episodes on NYPD BLUE. And I thought, from a listener, it might be good. I mean, people have a good idea what a writer does, but I'm not sure everyone knows what a script coordinator does. Do you want to tell me about what that role is and how that role could inform someone's writing career?
Yeah, so script coordinator is somebody. The basics of the job is you are the person that the writer. You're the last front before the writer publishes a script for production. So when a writer turns in a draft, you're the person that does the spell check. You number the scenes, you make sure the continuity of the pages. You know, usually when you write when a first draft of a script goes out to production, you lock your pages. There's a feature in Final Draft where you lock your pages, so that way when the pages are locked and there are new pages that come out during the rest of that episode's production, instead of the page numbers being all screwed up, you get your A pages and your B pages and things like that. So when that first script is published, it's a white script, white pages. Everything from that point on, that is the script length, and that does not change. But if there are things that are cut and things that are added, those things will show up as different types of pages, like A pages, B pages, C pages. So our job as script coordinator is to make sure that the continuity of the script is never compromised. All of the technical stuff is taken care of. You got a set list and a cast list that is listed with the script at the beginning of the production. You're in charge of all the revisions. The writer comes to you, and usually the process is that the writer will do the revisions with you in person, and you type along and put them in and make sure everything looks good. And yeah, so it's a very one-to-one, or a very hands-on sort of job with a writer. And usually it's the showrunner at that point who you're dealing with. The showrunner is the one who is making the revision changes and all that good stuff. So you get to work pretty closely with the showrunner. It's not a creative position per se. It is a production job, more of a technical job. But if you get lucky and you work hard enough and you're a squeaky enough wheel, sometimes you will be rewarded and you will be allowed to, pitch and best case scenario, maybe even get a freelance script, which is what happened with me on NYPD Blue. I didn't make it. I didn't make any bones about I wasn't shy, I should say, about wanting to be a writer. They knew it. I wore it on my sleeve. I was constantly, writing on my own so that they knew that, like, oh, okay, he's not just sitting here, playing video games or something when we're not in the office. So I was very, I wouldn't say I was loud about it, but I definitely made it known. I was like, I want to do this. I want to be a TV writer. And another great thing about the script coordinator position is that it's not, even though you're working, say, like on NYPD Blue, I'd be at the office, but like at 9:30 in the morning, 10 o'clock in the morning until about 6, 7 o'clock at night. That 9-hour workday, you're not working the entire time. I mean, honestly, really the only time you're actually doing your job is maybe an hour or 2 or 3 a day intensely, other than little things that pop up here and there. So it gave me, and it gives the script coordinator, I won't speak for anybody these days because I haven't done it in 20 years, but 15-ish, let's put it that way. But I took advantage of, all that downtime and was writing all the time. I was writing feature screenplays and I was writing hour-long specs and I was trying my hand at, writing a Simpsons spec or a King of the Hill spec. So, I always just viewed, that job was a great day job that also allows for somebody who wants to be a writer and has the work ethic to go after it hard to do that. They gave me a lot of free time to write script after script after script. And I wrote a lot of shitty ones, but occasionally I wrote a decent one or two.
Yeah.
So and then, it went from there and I was able to finally graduate from doing that job and be able to write as, get paid as a writer almost full time for the last few years. Awesome. But for the most part, it's worked out.
Well, I mean, I'm halfway through David Milch's biography, A Life's Work. And obviously he was one of the creators of NYPD Blue. And obviously they also created Deadwood, amongst other things. What were some of the lessons about writing you might have learned from working alongside somebody like him?
There are a few that I have taken with me, and I was really fortunate because I got my first production job as a PA on a Stephen Bochco show called Murder One in 1995. Okay. And David was, our offices, the Bochco building was on the 20th Century Fox lot. And in the building it was our show, Murder One, and NYPD Blue. And NYPD Blue at that time was at like the height of its superpowers. I mean, it's coming off of, best drama Emmy win, and David is winning, Emmys for writing and Dennis Franz is winning for best actor, a best actor Emmy. So, it was a hot show. And it was a great place to be because, like, it just, for lack of a better word or phrase, it felt very Hollywood, especially for me being like a 22-year-old kid who's just got out of my car from Ohio, and I was like, wow, okay, I'm right in it. And so watching David work was really awesome because he's sort of this mad genius, we had this atrium at the Bochco building. And when David was rewriting or writing scenes, he did it all on like yellow legal pad, right? And you'd see him like, he would just kind of sometimes perch himself like in the middle of the floor. He'd lay down in the middle of the floor and he'd be writing. And everybody knew, don't go near him, don't talk to him. He's in his zone. And I'm talking like in the middle of a building where there's casting going on and there's people bringing in lunch or you're going to get lunch for people. But David, when he was in his zone, like he didn't hear the outside noise. He didn't see the outside noise. He would just, if he was locked in on a script or locked in on writing, like he would just, wherever he was at, that's where he was at. And that's where it was going to happen. So it was really wild to see him see that process with him. But one of the major things I took away from him as a showrunner was, he would rewrite his writers extensively. I mean, that's not an unknown thing, and it's like a pretty common thing with with a lot of shows, especially if it's a freelance or somebody who's not part of the staff. A freelancer doesn't necessarily have the grip on the show and the voices and the characters and the tone and all that good stuff. So, rewriting a freelancer is a pretty common thing. And when David had to do that, one of the things I thought was most admirable about David was he never took a writer's name off the script. Okay. So what that means is, I saw it firsthand, he would rewrite somebody from page one. Like he would rewrite the entire script. And sometimes, by the way, it wasn't even that the writer did anything wrong. It would be that David would now look at the story and go, oh, no, we beat this out wrong. I know how this should go. Sipowicz should be doing this in this story and in this scene. And Simone should be doing this, and Russell should be. So it wasn't even that like the writer failed. It was just that David went, "Oh, wait a minute, this is my baby, and I see better how to make this happen." Right. So he would do a page one rewrite, and it was all him coming up with everything new and fresh and all that. But he didn't take the writer's name off the script. So there are instances of writers on Deadwood and NYPD Blue and Brooklyn South where those writers shush. So hold on one second. My dog is very barky. There are instances of these writers who've been nominated for Emmys, who have been nominated for other sorts of awards, Humanitas awards and things of that nature. And they've won. And they got that reward and it's boosted their career. But David was the one who rewrote that script. David was the genius behind the script that this person's name stayed on.
Wow.
And it's an incredible thing because it's such an egoless thing, And And I always thought, and I apply this to my own work as a showrunner. If I have to rewrite someone, I don't take their name off of it because, it's not about me. It's about the show. It's about them. And, and if I have to rewrite a writer, besides the paycheck, that credit is still so important to that person's career to the trajectory of their career. So it seems like such a selfish move for a writer, a showrunner to if you have to rewrite somebody to take their name off of the script or add your name to it. It's just not a cool move. But I always loved the fact, I just loved that David, that I learned that from David, that it was like, the writer's name stays on the script, even though I'm the one who is going to make sure the show, it hums and sings like it always does. I'm not going to punish the writer because I can see better what the path forward is than they did doing a freelance script or writing a script. So I always admired that about him. And he was just, he's just a really nice guy. I have nothing but kind words to say about him. And I know there are a lot of crazy stories about David and the struggles he had with addiction and things of that nature. And I know he's got some health issues now, but I've just been a huge fan of his. There was never an unkind word said to me from him. He was always very pleasant with me. And I just always, and he didn't have to be, but so I just have really fond memories. I mean, I don't know if he would know who I was if I passed him on the street these days, but at the same time, his gift to me are those things. And, whether he knows it or not, I am very appreciative of
that's amazing.
Limited time in his circle. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it reminds, I remember hearing an interview with Sidney Lumet, and he said that somebody said to Sidney Lumet, why do you always get such good writers to work with you? And he said, because I never take the credit off them. I said, we work together on the script and I'm going to direct the film, but the writing credit will always be the writer that I've worked with. Yeah.
That's so it's just the way it should be. And I'm glad to hear that I like that story too. That's great.
You were the creator of Skylanders Academy. Now there's obviously a difference between a writer and a creator on a show, but also that was a show created out of an existing IP. So just at the conception of it, how much freedom were you given as a creator of that show versus how much was this must be, or this must be that, this must be the other, in terms of what already existed out of the games?
It was, the freedom came in the fact that, Activision, when I met with them about the project and the IP, they said to me, this is what we want the show to be. We wanted it to be about these kids who are basically, it's basically, the X-Men, the New Mutants who are at at Professor X's Academy for gifted students, right? Or whatever it's called. So they said to me, we want our version of that. We want, Master Eon is Professor X, and he's training these superpowered animals that can speak in this universe to be like this ultimate team, right? So, they gave me those guardrails, so my job was to walk away from that and go, okay, that's great. We know that story, that's a tried and true trope. The only way this is going to be great, or the way I'm going to get this job and the way this show is going to work, is if the characters are awesome. So it was my job to go take those characters that they said, here are the characters we want you to use. And it was my job to go, okay, I'm going to make Spyro interesting in this way. I'm going to make Stealth Elf interesting in this way. I'm going to make Eruptor interesting in this way. And so my job was to in order to get the job was to really give those characters a unique and interesting voice that would make a viewer want to come back and watch their adventures and their interactions and their highs and lows and all that, and root for them week to week, or episode to episode, I should say. So, luckily I was able to pull that off. And that's always been my approach with any project that I've been a creator on. I did another series after Skylanders Academy for Hasbro, which hasn't been announced. And we did 52 episodes. It's produced and ready to roll right now. And I don't know what their plan is with it. We finished it in January 2020, and it's based on a very popular IP from the 70s that used to be a comic book. And we, again, Hasbro said, here's what this IP is. Here are the characters. How would you make this work? And it's just for me, it's always been character first. If we don't like the characters, we're not rooting for the characters. The rest of the story doesn't matter. It's you can give me the coolest angle into a story or the coolest hook, and if the characters suck, or if they're not interesting, like, who cares? It's off the air, or people forget about it. So from my approach has always been how do I, even with like these little talking animals and cartoon characters, it's like, and even for kids, a lot of most of my bread and butter is 6 to 11 animation, and kids are really smart these days. You can't write down to them. You have to give them aspirational content. And, I always try to, even though it is content for, an 8-year-old, 9-year-old, I still want them to, I still want my jokes to be a little more elevated. I want their interactions, the characters' interactions to feel real. I want the stakes to feel real. I've done stuff in the preschool space, and that doesn't really excite me that much because preschool is very much like lessons learned, and the characters can have flaws, and everybody's happy at the end. So that's not so much what excites me. But in the 6 and 11 space, it's really evolved over the last few years that we can do more content like that, where the characters have they're more thoughtful and they're more flawed, and they can screw up, and it's a good thing for a kid to see. That's like, oh, you can make a mistake, but you can recover from that, and life goes on, and all that good stuff. So and I can't say what I'm working on right now, but next month this show I'm working on for Amazon, which is a 6 to 11 animated series, will be announced, and that's based on a pretty cool IP as well. So that's my current day job as a creator and showrunner.
Well, one last question then about the job roles then. Before we get into the 3 films, is how would you describe the difference between a show creator and somebody who's writing on a show, having been in both camps now?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I've been for the 3 shows I've been the creator on, I have been the head writer at the same time. Okay, so there are few instances of someone who creates a show and then hands the keys to the car off. Most of my experience has been that if you're the creator, unless you don't have the experience as a writer, or you just aren't interested in that part of the process, it's very rare that the creator will go, oh, okay, now somebody else can, write the show. So for me, my experience specifically is I have been creator and head writer on each of these last 3 projects that I've been employed on to do that. So so you create the show and then you're in it as a writer. You're coming up with all the storyboards springboards for episodes, and then you're hiring freelancers to help you beat out the story and write the scripts, and then once the script's handed off to you, then you take it and you make usually the creator head writer is the one that writes the pilot as well. So everything is trying to, all the freelance scripts are, you have to make them sing like the pilot does. And it's your vision at the end of the day. So, it's your responsibility to make sure every freelance script comes in has the same, feel, tone, comedy, everything that the people that are signing your paychecks want to see. You have to make sure every one of those scripts has that at the end of the when it's handed off to production. So that's really as a creator, I've done both. I do both jobs. So I've never really created anything before and gone, somebody else do it now, or somebody else write this.
so in a way, your role, the way you've made the role as you do it, is you're forever macro micro in terms of the overall vision for the show, and then what this episode needs.
Oh yeah. And it can be a little intense.
I bet.
Depending on your production schedule and all that. Animation, was one of the things I love about animation, though, as opposed to live action. Like live action, you have this added pressure of having to shoot every day and having those scripts be ready to you get your 8-10 day it's like live action dramas. You got 8 to 10 days for every episode to shoot that script. So the script cycle of breaking story, outline script, delivering script, like that's such a tight window, and it cannot be deviated from because then production can't shoot, and when production gets pushed out, then that's crazy amounts of money being wasted and spent. So with animation, there's a lot more, even though we have a good, we have a tight production schedule. With animation, it's more, okay, it's not as intense because you're not, when you're writing the script and you're done with it, you're not immediately handing it off to some production person to go get it down to the set and make sure, the actors on the set have their lines to read and shoot. So, there's a lot less pressure.
Yeah.
With animation. And I really enjoy that part of the job.
Brilliant. Well, thanks for sharing that about the various roles within TV writing. We're now going to move into 3 films that have impacted everything in your adult life. And like you said, that's everything's big. But the interesting thing about this show so far, and I've only been doing it since December, this format, is that everybody interprets it in a different way. At one extreme, a recent show that went live was with the film critic Walter Chow, and he interpreted it as 3. He talked about surviving a suicide bid and the 3 films he watched repeatedly after that period in his life. Whereas I interviewed the actor Sarah Lindish, and she talked about watching Wizard of Oz with her grandparents and how that was a VHS that when she went to their house, that was the film, and so. For her, it was intrinsically linked with her relationship with her grandparents. So I love the way that people can interpret it, and I didn't expect this at all, because my only advice was think about those films that you might have seen before you were 18 that you just kind of made you wake up and smell the coffee or suddenly see the world differently. But I mean, that's not to say dogmatically that's what it should be, because we all have those different markers in our life that film can be later as well. I've got the 3 films from you. I'll just quickly recap for people that may not have listened to this before. I'm going to go through the 3 films that Eric has given me, and every time the alarm goes off, that's the time to end talking about that film, and we move on to the next film. Okay. That makes sense to you, Eric?
Yeah, that's awesome.
Brilliant. Well, I'm going to do them in the order that you supplied them me. So I'm just going to get my clock up. 5 minutes starting now. What's the impact on your life of Pulp Fiction?
Yeah, so Pulp Fiction, it was interesting. You were just mentioning, talking about other people's choices, for these films, and you used an example of someone watching, say, like The Wizard of Oz with their grandmother, and I grew up in a house where I had my relationship with my father was not great. He was an alcoholic, but
This is the story of the one. As a maintenance engineer, he hears things differently. To the untrained ear, everything on his shop floor might sound fine, but he can hear gears grinding or a belt slipping. So he steps in to fix the problem at hand before it gets out of hand. And he knows Granger's got the right product he needs to get the job done, which is music to his ears. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
and we were never close. He was never the guy that would go outside and throw ball with me or watch me play baseball, or it was interested in anything that I was into. But the one thing that he loved and that imprinted on me as a kid was movies. Like, we always had movies in our house. We were the VHS VCR age, and we were one of the first families to have a VCR at our house. So we're always watching movies, and I love movies. And I love very mature movies from an early age because I watched them with my dad, who was probably showing us stuff that I shouldn't be seeing at certain ages, but nevertheless. But the reason Pulp Fiction is so important to me, and is one of the movies that has defined my adult life is, once I discovered Tarantino and the way Tarantino writes, and Pulp Fiction, and I don't think anybody will argue this. Pulp Fiction was absolutely his, coming out party. Like Reservoir Dogs is a great indie film, and it's got some flaws, it's got some warts. But as far as, that was really more of him as I'm a director, right? The story was fine. A lot of things he took from other things to make that story, but it was really a directorial debut for him, as more than hey, oh my God, this guy's an amazing writer. Pulp Fiction to me was the crowning achievement of here's who I am as a phenomenal director, and here's who I am as a phenomenal writer. And the reason I say that about him being his stature as a writer is he takes a story that is, as we all know, it's 3 different timelines that all work together. It's all the characters in this story intersect, and you don't know where any of them are going in each of these stories. And what I love about that Pulp Fiction specifically, and the way he pulled that off, was it meant that once you know the rules, you can throw the rules out the window and make it your own thing. For me as a writer, that's such a freeing feeling. I don't know if I've ever pulled it off. I don't know if I've ever written anything that even sniffs what Tarantino is able to do on a bad day. But what was just so mind-blowing and guiding about Pulp Fiction was just being able to go, oh, this is what a movie can be. This is what a story can be. I don't have to just write from A to Z with the story that's in my head. We can play with timeline. We can play with killing a main character, one of our main characters, in the middle of the film, and then bringing them back, and then them still being pivotal to how the movie ends. It's just so. Pulp Fiction was just like this really freeing moment as a writer, where you just it was incredible to experience that, and to just, and it was just, probably of all the films I've ever seen in my life, it was the one that excited me the most. I remember, leaving the theater in 1994, fall of 1994, seeing it for the first time, and just the feeling you had was that you just wanted to go and run a marathon or something after that, or just like do something that just to burn the adrenaline out of your body, because just the way that movie made you feel. And it's like, it's such a high unto itself that you don't need drugs for. So,
no. I mean, you're right. No, I remember that feeling well. I couldn't
even imagine what it would be like to take drugs and watch that movie, especially for the first time. I mean, that would be such a mind blowing experience. So, but yeah, I was a senior in college, and had my eye towards Hollywood when I saw Pulp Fiction, and I feel like seeing Pulp Fiction at that time was really the thing that pushed me over the edge and said, okay, you're going to go be a screenwriter now. You're going to go after that. There's no turning back now. Tarantino's totally ruined you. he's driven you to pursue this terrible industry. So, for that reason, and all the other ones I just said, I really, look at that. Timing is perfect.
Brilliant. No, you reminded me this. If you've the DVD I've got of Reservoir Dogs, he talks about criticism of him for non-linear storytelling. And Tarantino says it's not non-linear storytelling. It's the order I choose to tell the story in.
Yes. Yeah.
Which is a really good way of describing it. It's like, it's non-linear because of time, but actually this is how the story should be told.
Dude, that's right. That's it. I love that.
Well, look, sir, moving swiftly along, but going back a couple of, 15, I'm trying to 16, 17 years to hold on. Is it 76 or 77, Jaws?
75.
75 even, yeah. No, it's
1975.
It is 20 years. So we've got Jaws. Jaws being this was the first film I ever saw on VHS. So for you, where does Jaws fit in your film watching life? What did you get from what is essentially a perfect film?
Yeah, I mean, Jaws is one of those. It's a film for me that I think I saw it, as a kid, probably, again, like I mentioned a moment ago, probably too early on. I probably shouldn't have seen it at the age I saw it at. But that to me was the film where just adventure, it was the perfect marriage of adventure and horror and thrills and light comedy and character. As far as, the greatest films ever made, not just in Hollywood, but generally just the greatest films ever made. I mean, I feel like Jaws has an argument to be considered one of the best films ever made. And not because one thing sticks out greater than the other, not because watching, Roy Scheider and Roy, the actors' names are escaping me. Roy Scheider and Robert Shaw and
Richard Dreyfuss
plays Hooper. I can totally forgetting. I know the character's name, but Richard Dreyfuss. Yes, thank you. So it's not that just because of these characters, or because of the type of story it was, or because it was. Oh, shush! Sorry, my wife just got home. No, but it's not that one thing about Jaws stood out from anything else. It's that it was all these perfect things coming together, and being such a surprising film at every turn, and a movie that was showed how gifted Spielberg was, as a director, and being able to use the things he didn't have to create fear and create thrills and create tension. I think it's just as far as filmmaking goes, I would tell any filmmaker, watch indie films for how to, make a movie on a budget or a shoestring. But if you really want to see how to get the most bang out of your buck, watch how Spielberg makes this movie about a shark who you don't see for the most of the film. You don't see the bad guy for 60% of the film, maybe a little more. And so it just, like, that film for me is always just it just reminds me of my youth, and reminds me of that first exposure to movies and falling in love with movies for the first time, and just being at home in the summertime off school, and having all these VHS tapes that we had in our house, and you just watch these movies over and over. And Jaws was just one of those that even to this day, if I catch it on television, I'm watching it. I'll stop whatever I'm doing and I'll watch it. And I can recite the film like it's like your favorite song, like something like that. Like I could sit there and run lines with the characters with the TV, because that's how many times I've seen it. But I really do think that the reason it's beyond how much I love the film is one of the reasons it's just so important to me as an adult, but also as an adult is because of it's linked to my youth and that initial discovery of movies and falling in love with movies and falling in love with the way movies make you feel, and always, chasing after that as a moviegoer and as a creator, as somebody who wants to who writes films and writes these TV shows and all that. So I'd say that's why that one is so vital to me as well.
I mean, I remember being a kid myself. It was the first time when you not understanding why Jaws or how Jaws is so brilliant, but then watching the sort of diminishing returns of the sequels that followed it, and not understanding why they could. Why would you make them so bad when that is, as a kid, you couldn't quite understand what was going on?
Yeah, it's funny how the studios didn't understand that the reason this thing worked was because of the discovery for the first time. Like the not seeing the monster, not knowing what the monster was until, Spielberg was waiting to the last possible second to show you what the thing was. If you're making Jaws 2, we already know it's about a great white shark and we know what it's about. So how are you going to come near what we did in the first film? You know what I mean? Like it was that initial thrill and just discovery,
But also in a way, it's a great example of where, the shark is a monster, but the antagonist in the film is Murray Hamilton, the mayor. He's going to get people killed. That's the bad guy. That's who Brody's up against. And it's a real, and it's, I teach one day a week story and concept development. And in that it's a great example to show people, because obviously people who've not thought about it will immediately go, the shark's the antagonist and Brody's the protagonist. Yeah. And you go, no, think about it. The shark is a monster, but really Brody's up against the mayor.
Yeah. And the shark is in its environment. You know what I mean? Like the shark is where it lives. Yeah. What Brody did is what Brody wants to do is the absolute right thing. Get people out of the water, take away its food supply. It'll go away, or we'll kill it, whatever it takes. The mayor, though, because money rules everything for that guy, he is the reason. And that's why you can't get that story again in the sequels, because you go down that road again, then it's just like, well, why are we doing the same story? You know what I mean? Like, you can't do that story again. So it's just like capturing that lightning in a bottle in such a perfect way with everything in the first film. It just, it's just just how lucky are we that thing exists?
Indeed. And to be honest with you, I think where Spielberg's career went afterwards, I mean, he didn't want to carry on, did he? I mean, if he could have been involved, I suppose that could have it, but he didn't want to do franchises. Wasn't a thing back then, and all that kind of stuff.
That's right.
Well, look,
he created the franchise vision, and luckily he said, I'm going to keep making new amazing things. So yeah.
Well, look, moving on to your final choice of the three films that impacted everything adult life. We've split between two choices here. So I'll give you. I mean, you're not the first, so don't feel bad to do that. I've had somebody give me a video game, so as the third choice. So having two films is not a bad thing. So for your final choice, we've got Sideways or Fargo. Do you want to explain the impact and what split the difference is for you there?
Yeah, the reason those movies, and then I toggled back and forth with quite a few. Die Hard was in my head for a minute. A Christmas Story, strangely, was in my head for a minute. Because of that movie. Christmas Story feels like it feels like home to me. It makes me, the holidays are like, we're always my favorite time of the year, and just something about A Christmas Story it just gives me that. That peace and nostalgia that we're always wanting to hang on to and just makes us feel happy. But yeah, with Sideways and Fargo, those are two of the most important films to me in my life, because this is intrinsic with me being a writer, me pursuing a career in Hollywood and all that good stuff. What I love about both of those films is the the way that it's, we talked about this a little bit earlier, character is everything, and those movies are so beautifully written, and the characters are so wonderfully crafted, and I've always been, I feel like I've always been chasing that as a writer, to be able to write, a character like Paul Giamatti's character in Sideways, and the Coen brothers, the way they craft their characters, and everyone's so beautifully flawed. And it's just, for some reason, what I love about those movies is just there's the subtlety, the storytelling, the kind of the way dark humor infuses both movies as well. You watch either of those films and you'll catch yourself laughing at things that you know is just twisted and you should not be laughing at all. But they're so real in that way. For instance, when we see the Peter Stormare's character, trying to put the his partner's leg in the wood chipper at the end of Fargo, and he's just and Frances McDormand's character has just come up, and she's watching him, and that scene's so brilliant in the sense that he's so focused on trying to push that dude's leg into the chipper, and there's blood shooting out of it, and she's over here with her gun out. And he doesn't even notice her because he's so focused on the job, and he's so annoyed. And and the wood chipper is like super loud, and she's having to yell over it and point to her sheriff's badge or her badge, and point her gun. And it's just like, what a comically weird, wild, but also super real moment. You can absolutely buy that that's how that situation would go down. And then that sad little chase that takes place afterwards, where Stormare tries to run away in the snow and is easily caught. It's just like there's such a realness, such a lived-in real quality about the way the Coen brothers and Alexander Payne, especially back then. Coen brothers a little bit more. I think I've gotten a little bit away from that over recent years. There's a little bit more high concept sort of things and things they're trying, which is great. You should do that as an artist. But back, in those mid late 90s, early 2000s, Coen brothers and Alexander Payne movies, like those characters just feel so real. They feel like people that the way they react to things are so human, and it's so aspirational for me as a writer. And as somebody who is going to write these things until the day I die, I'm always going to be trying to try to live up to those types of stories and those types of characters, and I think that's why those two films stuck out to me, and they mean so much because of how much they mean to me as far as trying to be that type of storyteller and that type of writer, and those are the reasons.
I mean, I think with Fargo, you get the absurdity of brilliant characters that seem unreal, but you never lose sight of the stakes. You feel like you're in a drama still, even though what's been set up and what's playing out is nigh on ridiculous. Certainly in Fargo, it's proper, it's farcical levels of farce. And yet it still can feel like a pin to play, where you're reading the subtext of characters and wondering what they're up to. I mean, there's that whole scene with Frances McDormand when she's with her old school friend, which you can imagine now if you put a script in like that and a script reader got hold of it, they'd go, "What have you got that scene for?"
That's right. So good. Oh, look at that. Timing is perfect again.
We are up with the 5 minutes. Well, look, that's your three and a bit films. I thank you very much for sharing it, and I thank you very much for sharing your insight into TV writing as well. I was very grateful for that. Do you think, I mean, you say that I mean, and you gave me some words before we spoke, and it's this idea of it inspiring you as a writer, the idea of watching stuff that makes you, because a conversation I've had with my students is it's like, you don't want to try and be like Tarantino, but because that's a measure you can never achieve. It's like,
that's right.
But you know that if you write every day, you'll be a better writer than you were yesterday and the day after that and stuff. And obviously that's the journey that Tarantino went on to be that good. He didn't arrive. That's absolutely.
Yeah, that's absolutely it. And that's how you discover your own voice. I mean, you can, and by the way, it's okay. I'm sure I did this in my youth. It's okay to try to write a Tarantino-esque script.
Absolutely.
But the reason you're not going to be Tarantino is because there's only one Tarantino. You have to be you have to be you. You have to be me, or I have to be me. Like we have to figure out what our voice is, because then that's how, once you develop your voice and your style and all that good stuff, then that's when you're somebody suddenly who people want to hire to write their stuff and they want to buy your scripts because it's like, oh wait, okay, this is a cool story, but the way this person's telling me this story is something I haven't experienced before, or something I think audiences are going to respond to. So, that writing every day. I mean, it's funny. Especially when I was younger, and this does apply to your students, but when you're young, you should absolutely gun it all the time and be writing and be figuring out, who you are as a writer and what your voice is. As an older person, I take breaks when I can. Especially when the writing is your day job. I look for reasons not to write. But, luckily, I feel like I've found my way. I've found my voice, so I try to save my bullets for when, either there's a deadline or there's just something, a news story is just taking such a grip on me that I'm just like, I can't not write this. And that's usually how I write screenplays these days. I usually won't start a new screenplay unless the idea is just really just trying to break out of my brain and I have to give into that.
So with all the work you might be doing for TV shows and stuff, you still have the other stuff worming around that'll be trying to fight to get out of you.
Yeah, I mean, I've written over the last couple of years. I've written a couple of horror screenplays that I have a producer who's shopping and I have a director's attached to, and I have to write that stuff to kind of counter doing the kids stuff because germane to this conversation, I love movies so much, and the reason I came into this industry is because I wanted to be a film writer. So I'm always still pursuing that, and I'm doing that on the side, and I haven't had the luck I've had in TV yet, but it all informs each other. And every screenplay I write, I feel like it is getting better because of all the work I'm doing in television and all the things I've learned from television that I can apply to storytelling as a screenwriter. So, it just, I just still, like I said a couple minutes ago, I'll write until I die for sure.
Well, look, on that thought, it just gives me to say thank you very much for joining us on the Britflix podcast.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. This was super fun, man.
What if you could have a career where the opportunities are as vast as our nation, where it's not about mission statements, but a shared mission? At U.S. Customs and Border Protection, we go beyond to protect more than borders. From ship to shore, air to ground, cities to local communities, CBP agents and officers are keeping people safe. Join U.S. Customs and Border Protection and go beyond for something far greater than yourself. Learn more at cbp.gov/careers.
Find all your 4th of July needs at low prices, all in the Kroger app. Get 3-pound packages of flavorful 80% lean ground beef for $3.99 a pound with a digital coupon. Then buy 2, get 3 free on 12 packs of delicious Coca-Cola, Pepsi, or Canada Dry. Shop these deals at your local Kroger, less than 5 miles away. Or tap the screen now to download the Kroger app to save big today. Kroger, fresh for everyone. Prices and product availability subject to change. Restrictions apply. See site for details.